This is CBC Vancouver News.
If she is listening now, I want to tell her that we love her, we miss her, and nothing will ever fill the void that she left when she was so brutally and suddenly torn from us. But we hope that she can find a modicum of peace now.
The family of a young girl murdered in Burnaby more than 6 years ago thanks prosecutors and slams the defense after a man is convicted in her death. Plus,
cost of inflation and the instability in the housing market and food instability as well.
Rising costs are hurting pets and pet owners. How you may be able to help. And
Merry Christmas, BC children!
Look at you. How are you doing? Are you giving out high fives?
spreading some cheer everywhere. Santa drops by BC Children's Hospital to brighten the day for patients, parents, and staff. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. The family of a 13-year-old girl who was killed 6 years ago in Burnaby is now speaking, days after Ibrahim Ali was found guilty of first-degree murder in her death. John Hernandez has more from BC Supreme Court in Vancouver.
The victim's brother made an emotional statement outside the BC Supreme Court on Tuesday. CBC News is not naming him due to a publication ban protecting the identity of the victim. However, he recalled the day of the victim's death. He was texting with her hours before her body was found.
I was working and studying in China at the time, having just messaged her hours before the incident, not knowing that those were going to be my last words to her. And this is something that's going to haunt me daily and will probably continue to do so till my dying days.
Crown prosecutors say the victim was passing through Burnaby Central Park in July 2017 when she was sexually assaulted and strangled to death. On Friday, Ibrahim Ali was found guilty of first-degree murder. The victim's brother said he was relieved and grateful for the verdict. However, he did have criticism for the defense.
The hurt that this defense has caused on our family is immeasurable. So I don't think it's unfair to say on behalf of my entire family that we resent and despise the defense for the way that they have chose to act, all of which that was funded by taxpayer money, and we will be filing formal complaints through the proper channels to see them disbarred.
Defense lawyers said they felt for the family and understood how a trial like this can be traumatizing, but ultimately stood by the role the defense played in this trial. Defense lawyer Ben Linsky said that the role of the defense is to represent the accused and to prevent any wrongful convictions. Now, the Vancouver Police Department has confirmed that on Friday there were reports of someone entering the courtroom with a weapon. Defense lawyer Ben Linsky did confirm that the suspect is the victim's father.
I think anytime there's significant animus, anytime there's a person with a gun, that's deeply concerning.
The Vancouver Police Department said the suspect was released and an investigation is ongoing. On Tuesday, court proceedings were moved into a secure courtroom. As for what's next, a sentencing hearing has been scheduled for January, and the defense has filed a notice of appeal. Among the charges include that there are third-party suspects in the girl's death. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
the RCMP in Williams Lake says 2 people were arrested after a man brought a dead infant to a local hospital on Friday. Police say a second child was later found hurt nearby and also brought to hospital to get checked. They say a 32-year-old man and a 33-year-old woman were arrested, but they didn't specify their relationship to the children. The pair have since been released. Mounties say the Ministry of Children and Family Development has been informed, and it's launched an investigation. The coroner is also looking into what happened. City Council has passed its $2 billion budget in Vancouver. Property owners and business owners will be seeing a 7.5% tax increase. But as Justin McElroy reports, it also includes a last-second increase to the mayor's budget.
The mayor of Vancouver has increased the budget to his specific office. And not surprisingly, he thinks it's a good idea.
Let's be bold. Vancouver's a world-class city. Let's act world-class.
Ken Sim said that in order to act world-class, the mayor needs to travel to more events and meet with more people to bring the city more events and contracts. So during the city's budget debate, he asked for more money. $100,000 for his office and $80,000 for the clerk's office, explicitly to help support the mayor's office. And the amendment passed. That's 2023 Ken Sim. But 2022 Ken Sim had different thoughts about the mayor's budget.
First of all, I want to be very clear. We are not going to be cutting any service levels. The dumb spend comes in terms of, fun fact for you, what do every single president and every single prime minister have in common of Canada? They've only had one chief of staff. The mayor here had two. So there's 150 grand right there.
That was at a Business in Vancouver debate when Sim was asked where he would find the budget efficiencies he kept campaigning on. But that wasn't just a one-time line. 3 days later, we interviewed Sim and asked him the same question. And he said the same thing.
When every single president of the United States and every single prime minister of Canada have gotten by with one chief of staff, and then we have the city of Vancouver that needs two chiefs of staff under the current mayor, that's an issue.
Sim did go down to one chief of staff, but the budget didn't actually go down. The money was just redistributed in the mayor's office in a different way. And now it's going up by about 10%. Now, is that a lot? It depends on how you look at it. Here is a chart. This is where Vancouver sat a couple years ago compared to some other big municipalities. The increases will keep the city in the middle. So you can say it's just the cost of doing more business with more people, as the mayor did.
If we can't get the results, I will personally hold myself accountable.
Or you could use it as an example of how what you say in a campaign and what you do as a mayor can often be a little bit different. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Visits to food banks have been soaring in BC this year, but the SPCA says the demand for more help from pet food banks is also growing. The not-for-profit says it relies on donations and on its funds to keep up. Last year, the society provided more than 530,000 meals to dogs and cats, but this year it says the need has gone up 20%.
And that could be due to climate crises and emergencies like fires and floods that we saw in 2021. The fires last year had a huge impact, as well as the cost of inflation and the instability in the housing market and food instability as well, or insecurity, I should say. So there's been quite a need.
The society says it can't keep up with the demand, especially for dry cat and dog food. If you are able to donate and want to, you can drop off donations at one of their 36 locations. BC's residential tenancy branch has found a Vancouver property management company acted in bad faith when it tried to evict a tenant to make space for a live-in building caretaker. Now an arbitrator has canceled renter Mauricio Carvalho's 4-month notice to end tenancy. That notice was served by Plan A Real Estate Services in July. For more on this complaint, CBC's Bethany Lindsay joins us now. Bethany, why did this case end up at the RTB?
Yeah, so Carvalho lives in an 8-unit building on the west side, and he knew that his landlord wanted to evict someone to allow a caretaker to move in. That's totally legal under BC law. So Carvalho and one of his neighbors got a call from Plan A about a year ago. They say they were told one of them would have to go. The neighbor agreed to leave voluntarily. She moved out in April. But instead of moving in a caretaker, Plan A re-rented the apartment, and they raised the rent by more than 50%. Then Carvalho got his eviction notice.
So it was a huge surprise and source of stress getting that eviction notice just a few months after the neighbors next door had moved out.
So Plan A says they weren't able to find a caretaker by the time the neighbor moved out, so they argue they had a responsibility to find a new tenant instead.
Bethany, what did the residential tenancy branch have to say about that argument?
Well, the arbitrator assigned to the case didn't buy it. They found that Plan A was acting in bad faith, and they said it didn't make sense to ask someone to leave when there was no caretaker available. Carvalho's neighbor had left voluntarily, so Plan A knew that she had no recourse when a caretaker didn't move in as promised. The arbitrator said it looked like Plan A was just trying to maximize its rental income, and they've now canceled Carvalho's eviction notice.
Obviously, it was a great relief. I know that the housing situation right now is extremely complicated, and I received a lot of support from friends, from neighbors, and just very grateful for all of that help.
So, of course, Plan A isn't quite so happy about this. Their executive director sent me a written statement saying the company disagrees with the arbitrator's decision and they're considering a judicial review. Plan A says they believe the decision was biased and that the arbitrator misinterpreted the law. They say they have live-in caretakers at other buildings and have never been accused of acting in bad faith. For now, Carvalho will be allowed to stay on a month-to-month basis.
CBC reporter Bethany Lindsay, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
A recycling facility in Kamloops is shutting its doors. It claims its business is being underfunded by Recycle BC. Jennifer Norwell has more.
So tell me a little bit about why you're getting out of the business of recycling.
We are receiving too much volume. We are getting back too much recycle, and it is affecting parts of my business that pay the wages around here. The main problem, it is affecting the ability of customers to bring me product that I can pay my bills with. I often get vehicles and cars on my parking lot for 15 or 20 minutes that are returning only recyclables. That's maybe a $2 value to me, whereas the same person with 20 minutes worth of bottles is worth 20 times that. Over the course of last summer, the volumes became so large that it was causing a lot of problems for people to get in and out of here.
This is one of the situations where people are using this to get rid of their soft plastics, styrofoam, their glass. Is there a concern that without an option on the North Shore, that might end up going into garbages?
Yeah, there very well could be an opportunity, because it's less convenient now than it has been in the past, to see more of that product, the soft plastic, glass, styrofoam, showing up in our garbage mix rather than going to the depot where it ultimately should be going.
Is there anything that the city can do about it? I know it's not the city's purview to decide how recycling works.
Yeah, ultimately, as it relates to Recycle BC depots, that's a decision made by that organization, and it's really out of the control of the city of Kamloops.
Due to business decisions, General Grant's North Shore Recycling Center is no longer going to be accepting Recycle BC residential packaging and paper materials. We are asking residents to drop off their packaging and paper materials at 2 depots that are nearby, both of which are about a 6-kilometer drive away.
I know just anecdotally in chatting with some folks, that their response to this was, well, I'll just end up throwing it in my garbage.
Well, we really hope people are not doing that. We really do thank the people of Kamloops for their commitment. We really do hope people do take the opportunity to recycle those materials.
Well, he left his reindeer and sleigh at home, but he brought plenty of cheer and goodwill to those who really need it. Santa Claus arrived by chopper today at BC Children's Hospital to brighten the day for patients, parents, and staff.
We're here today to spread a little bit of cheer for those kids that have to spend time in the hospital dealing with whatever illness or injury that they have. We've been to Victoria, we've been to Nanaimo, and here we are now at Children's Hospital. We've got 3 more hospitals to do today. Are you giving out high fives? All right, good job. Would you like a teddy bear?
I think what's really important to know here is children who are in hospital this time of year. I think Santa may have forgotten them or might not know where they are. And so by Santa coming with our partners means all these children are going to have Santa come and visit with them. And this makes a big difference to reassure them that they've not been forgotten and that Christmas will happen because Santa knows exactly where they are.
Santa will never forget these kids. It doesn't matter where they are.
Santa, I have a very special family for you to meet right now.
High five. Good job. Another high five.
I can't believe that I, as an 84-year-old, ran all the way here from Ronald McDonald House just to see Santa land.
My son has been in isolation for 5 weeks, and he's actually out to be able to meet Santa today.
Merry Christmas, buddy.
It means believing in magic, believing in things you can't see will happen, but they can happen. It's childhood. My son's been sick for a while, and he's felt like he's lost a bit of his childhood. So he's really excited about Santa.
Merry Christmas!
The amazing staff and doctors here, they saved his life, and he's also just survived a bone marrow transplant. So we're looking to a brighter future right now, so this Christmas means a lot of life for us and hope.
See you again next time.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. See you Christmas Eve.
Leave the lottery tickets out of kids' stockings. BCLC has some advice for parents and guardians ahead of Christmas. Next. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Thanks for being here. Research by Canadian university students is raising concerns about major storms and microplastics. Hurricanes appear to be lifting the plastics out of the oceans and spreading them to pristine regions where people may breathe them in without knowing it. Kayla Hounsell has that story.
As Hurricane Larry was lashing Newfoundland in September 2021, a couple of Dalhousie University students were out collecting air. Yes, just air.
An astonishing result that we weren't really expecting.
Anna Ryan says the ocean is often thought to be the ultimate sink for microplastics. We assume they stay there. But the students set out a large glass cylinder before, during, and after the hurricane, trying to determine whether storms might be whipping up those plastics, allowing them to travel through the air to rural communities, where there is likely no other source of microplastics.
We found there were a lot of plastics, way higher than any other study has ever found before.
It's so small. How small is it?
So if you think of the width of a human hair, it's about 20 to 30 times smaller than that. Because they're so small, they're really easily ingested or inhaled.
Ryan's work has now been published in Nature, a leading science journal.
It's a really big deal. I think that really just signals the importance of the work, the novelty of the work.
Here's our experimental setup.
Another Dalhousie student is conducting similar research on post-tropical storm Fiona last year. She says she'll be able to compare to Ryan's data when the results are in.
We can't make bigger actions like policy changes nationally to cut back on plastic pollution if we don't know how bad it is at a smaller level.
Ryan says her research shows microplastics are pretty much everywhere.
And that's why everyone should care about this problem. It's not just people who live in cities or people who live in areas that are very obviously polluted.
She says the solution is limiting the use of plastics to keep them from entering the environment in the first place. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Halifax.
Christmas, as you likely know, is less than 2 weeks away. And the BC Lottery Corporation is now asking adults to be responsible when it comes to stocking stuffers. It's asking you not to include scratch and win tickets in any kids' stockings. The BCLC's Director of Player Health, Ryan McCarthy, joins us now with more. Ryan, first of all, why don't you want parents and guardians giving scratch and win tickets to kids?
So we know from research that kids that are exposed to gambling early in their lives, so under 19, are often more apt to demonstrate problem gambling behaviors. And so for us, the Gift Smart campaign is a way for us to encourage parents to buy fun and entertaining gifts for their children, but not scratch and win tickets.
Now when selling lotto tickets is the business of BCLC. So tell us about what efforts you put in to make sure kids don't get addicted to the things that you sell.
So we have age-gated environments. So to buy a lottery ticket in British Columbia, if you were under 25, you are automatically ID'd at one of our 3,400 retailers across the province. Or if you're trying to buy lottery online through our secure online website, playnow.com, there is an identity verification process to make sure that you're 19 years of age or plus. So we take it very seriously in terms of making sure that youth are not able to access our products.
So we know that it is the time of year where people are giving gifts. Are you seeing more people or perhaps children becoming addicted to gambling and scratch and win tickets? Can you quantify it?
So we know from research that about 10 to 14% of youth that are exposed to gambling early, so between the ages of 9 and 11 is typically when that happens, that they are more apt to demonstrate problem gambling behaviors later on. So it might not be right away. The other thing that we know is about 4 to 6% of youth that are aged 12 to 17 are already starting to demonstrate some problem gambling behaviors. And that can be anything from playing gambling games to actually video games and sports betting. So we're just concerned in making sure that parents understand that scratch and win tickets, while they might seem harmless, they can actually be risky for youth. And so we really encourage them not to consider those as gifts for this holiday season.
Now, for those parents and guardians, if they suspect that perhaps their child may have a problem with gambling, what are the signs they ought to watch for?
So some of the things that they can look for is if they're skipping class, if they are going into debt, asking for more money. Also, if there's in-app charges that are coming through the parent's credit card, those are all signs that they might want to be aware of what's happening with their youth gambling, and have a conversation about some of the risks that can be incurred by engaging in gambling at such a young age.
And lastly, we appreciate your time. What resources specifically is BCLC offering for parents and guardians who suspect that their kids may have a problem?
So if they're concerned, I'd really encourage them to visit GameSense.com, which is our website that has a number of different resources, and including how to talk to your kids about gambling. And through the GameSense website, you're also able to reach out to one of our GameSense advisors who can also talk to parents and to kids about what safer gambling can look like.
Okay. Essentially, though, when they are of age to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ryan McCarthy, Director of Player Health for BC Lottery Corporation. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a live shot of a foggy Georgia Street downtown. Darius will have your BC-wide forecast next.
Even when he visits the nation's capital, Chief Chris Muniaz of Niskandiga First Nation chooses to drink bottled water instead of trusting the tap.
Well, it's a trauma. It's what it's ingrained in our minds.
Niskandiga is a fly-in community in northwestern Ontario, with the longest drinking water advisory of any First Nation. 28 years and counting.
I just hope that someday that we'll be able to have clean drinking water.
Muniaz also hopes Ottawa's new bill will prevent other First Nations from going through what his people are.
Hopefully that, once there's a boil of water advisory, it will get addressed right away, as opposed to waiting 28 years.
Introduction of government bills.
Bill C-61 aims to protect water in First Nations by creating minimum national standards for wastewater and drinking water.
Indigenous people, Indigenous children deserve to be conceived, born, and die drinking clean water.
The proposed legislation also promises to bring First Nations water systems up to par with municipal ones.
It commits to the equity of First Nations to have sufficient funding compared to non-Indigenous communities, and the funding frameworks will be worked out with First Nations people.
Ottawa is required to introduce the bill under a multi-billion-dollar settlement providing compensation for First Nations people deprived of safe potable water.
We've needed this kind of legislation for a long time.
But the NDP's Indigenous critic isn't throwing her support behind the bill just yet.
I need to see that First Nations do feel that they've been heard. I need to see that this legislation went beyond the court case,
The proposed law replaces legislation introduced by the previous Conservative government, repealed by the Liberals after widespread criticism from First Nations over a lack of consultation and funding. Issues this new bill will also be scrutinized for as it makes its way through the House of Commons. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
With Christmas fast approaching, we sent our Ali Petargue to the downtown Vancouver Costco to see who's ready there.
So are you ready for the holiday?
Yes.
And what are you excited about?
Dressing up my dogs, making my house look awesome and smell awesome, and yeah, just in general, everybody's happier during the holidays.
I work in a restaurant and sometimes can be quite busy with a lot of parties, so I think a little stress about a lot of clients coming to see us.
What are you excited about?
I mean, the food and share moments, special moments with my friends.
And it's your first time in Canada, right?
First time in Canada. I'm from Brazil. Like, this is the first time I'm here, first time seeing snow. So yeah, adapting to the situations.
I'm going to Mexico on the 15th, so I have all my presents bought, all my presents delivered, everything's all done, so I'm ready.
What's stressing you out about the holidays?
Everyone has the ability to buy everything at their fingertips online and just trying to find what will make people happy.
What are you excited for?
The food, turkey.
The gift giving, of course. It's a nice time, of the year.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Time for a BC-wide weather forecast with science and climate specialist Darius Madavi, who's encouraging you to get outside if it's safe.
Yes, and if you bundle up, please. It's
also
going to be chilly. Yeah,
some cocoa.
Oh, that sounds good. Cocoa and a meteor shower. That's what we're looking at.
Together at last.
Yes, these are the Geminids. It's a meteor shower that's going to be happening. The peak is tomorrow night, but if we take a look at our cloud map, you're not likely to see it. So this is all of the meteors that were seen last year by NASA. You can see there's plenty of them, up from anywhere from 100 to 150 meteors expected. Take a look up at the Gemini constellation if you want to see them. That's generally where they seem to be coming from. By seem, I mean they look like they're coming from there, even though they're part of our solar system, not another star system, of course. And if we take a look, you can see right now, probably your best bet if you're on the south coast to go see it, because we'll have minimal cloud, but we're going to see that tomorrow night, when the real peak of the shower is, we're going to be pretty cloudy. Unless you're north of Williams Lake or on parts of the island, you might get a little bit luckier, but looks like a pretty cloudy one, unfortunately. Now, if we take a look at our bigger map, you can see that we're not going to have this system roll in until a little bit later, but as it does come down, we're going to see plenty of precipitation. Usually, for most places, we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 30 millimeters of rain, so nothing too bad. This isn't an atmospheric river situation, or a sustained atmospheric river situation, sorry, but you can see pretty big front. We'll see some flurries and snowfall in parts of the interior, really Wednesday night into Thursday, and then that next system should roll through on Friday, bringing some more rain, although we're not going to take a look at that yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. In terms of accumulation, plenty of snow coming to the mountain ranges and even at lower elevations, because we are quite chilly. We're still feeling those cold temperatures from that ridge of high pressure that was over, and the cold front will bring plenty of snow, but rain for the south coast as well. And again, you can see not too much, so it shouldn't be too bad here. But for tomorrow, we're mostly seeing rain and snow here into the central, interior, and up on the north and central coast. And then here, the rain doesn't come until late in the evening. So really, for here in Vancouver, we're looking at a forecast of a little bit of rain tomorrow evening, and then a rainier Thursday, heavier rain on Friday as the next front rolls through, and then a chance of a rainy weekend. But we'll update that forecast as we go.
That sounds good. Darius, thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Before we go, developing news to share with you. The COP28 Climate Summit in Dubai has approved a deal that would, for the first time, push nations to transition away from fossil fuels to avert the worst effects of climate change. You can read much more on this developing story on our website, cbc.ca/news. Good night.